Welcome to the Fairhaven Artists Podcast Series on the South Coast Artist Index. Your host, Scott Bishop, will introduce you to the town's many historical and contemporary visual and performing artists. The Artist Index continues to bring you informative conversations about the historical artists and the contemporary makers, performers, supporters, and cultural impresarios. Fairhaven, Massachusetts is an integral part of the South Coast creative community. The Fairhaven Artists Podcast Series and the Fairhaven Performing Artists Podcast Series is sponsored in part with a grant from the Fairhaven Cultural Council, a local agency supported by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, a state agency.
Thanks again for joining the Artists Index. I'm delighted to share the first of a two-part interview with the great Fairhaven singer-songwriter Eddie Dillon. Eddie gave me a tour of his home studio, a space that's evolved over 25 years of technology changes, and we touched upon a wide range of topics from a long, creative, and productive career. If it sounds like part one starts in the middle of the conversation, it's because, before we officially got started, Eddie was casually discussing a songwriter's workshop he recently attended. It was such an interesting yet relaxed way to kick things off that we just rolled with it. And now, Eddie Dillon.
I went to a songwriters conference in August, the New England Songwriters Retreat, NESR. It's run by Ellis Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Ellis and his wife, Laurie McElhaney. And I was kind of nervous about it, you know. Somebody turned me on to it, but I said, well, I'll give it a shot because, you know, I've been writing songs for a million years. This turned out to be one of the best weekends I've ever spent. There were 40 songwriters there of all ilks, from
all genres.
A couple of people who never wrote a song before but were coming to try to see if they could get, and they did, to very accomplished songwriters. I mean, some of these young kids like freaking blew me away. And then the staff was Ellis and his wife. His wife played with Red Molly.
Yep.
Yeah, and she's the founder of Red Molly. And then Seth Geyer, he's been around like the folk music festivals and stuff, and he's a producer. And he was amazing. A guy named Don Henry, who's a songwriter.
Very close to some other songwriter we know.
yeah, right. Yeah, but and a couple of other people, but it was just a spectacular way to spend my time. And I came back. I mean, I've always been writing, and you know, and continue to write. But it was just, I came home like I was on fire when I came home. I still am. I get goosebumps just talking about the weekend.
Yeah, can you tell me more about it? Because what really charged you up being around all these different songwriters, different genres, different age groups, different skill levels?
Well, first of all, the camaraderie of just, you know, people that their quest is to write, you know, their next best song, and the sense of giving across the board, you know, people just supporting each other, and then every night there was like there was 40 people on our weekend, so they had 4 groups of 10 do sessions around this beautiful retreat center, and you know, so you could do your own thing. Everybody was, you know, pulling out their best stuff, and it was just, you know, even some of the people that were you know just starting out got a lot of support. And it was genuine. Everybody just wants everybody to feel good about themselves and do better. But then there's also the classes that they had were, some of them were like project oriented, where they'd give you a task to do. One task was write some lyrics based on a prompt that they gave you. And then someone else give the lyrics in a box, and everybody draw out another set of lyrics, and you write the melody.
Oh, wow.
And my group happened to be 9 people. Ellis Paul was sitting in. So Ellis Paul happened to draw my lyrics.
Oh, my.
So, and I was like sweating bullets. I'm going, oh, God. I wasn't really when I write a song, I'm usually, I kind of grind away at it for a long time and rewrite it, and so I was just like, oh God, this is embarrassing, but
he's got my first draft.
So he took the freaking thing and he changed a couple little passages and just knocked my socks off. I was like, and he was so very, very generous people, So yeah, it's NESR. They have a Facebook page, and I'd highly, if you're interested at all, I'd highly suggest looking into it.
I think any songwriters listening would be interested, because it sounds like a great way to. I mean, it puts you in a new space with different people, which almost always generates new ideas and new approaches. When that happens, when you bring it back home, what does that look like when you've been around these people, like you talked about being on fire? How is that translated with what you're writing now or what you're working on?
Yeah, well, since I've been home, which has been about 3 weeks, there's another songwriter, and I would say that this guy is like sort of on the same level I am. He's had some things recorded by other people, and he's got CDs out, and he's a pretty active guy, and about my age. And we were talking away, and he says, do you have a song catalog? And I said, well, not really. I've always guesstimated how many songs I have, And he said, you should really get your catalog together. It's gonna give you a grounding of what you actually have. So I did. I came home, and I had been transforming a number of my songs from the old days on cassette tapes and reel to reel and all sorts of stuff to MP3s just to do this process. But I was so in the weeds with it. I just, it's just sitting there. When I get back, I spent like 3 days, good long days going through stuff. I set up a Excel spreadsheet, and I've got well over 600 songs.
Wow.
And but because I can go back to I started writing when I was in the 7th grade.
Right.
So but I haven't really included that really early stuff. But
it counts.
It counts. Yeah. So that's one little aspect. The other thing is taking myself as a songwriter more seriously, because I played full-time music for like 7 years with the Shananagans, and was writing music, of course, all the time, but I wasn't making a living as a singer-songwriter, and I've done a lot of singer-songwriter gigs, but never like with the focus of being the singer-songwriter and doing this as my focus in music. So I'd say I came home with that in mind.
Where was your focus before? Was it more performing?
I'd say I was I've had to make a living doing a whole bunch of different things. I moved down here to be a social worker. I worked full-time in the Irish music business. Did a lot of interesting things in the Irish music business, toured with the Clancy Brothers, blah, 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 blah. But I've always, that's what that first song by CD is about, money and water. And it's trying to make a living any way I could. And that's exactly what I did. I always had in the back of my mind that I'm a songwriter. But, trying to get out there and make a living doing it is really tough.
It is.
Yeah.
Because so much of what you have to do as a songwriter and musician, it's time oriented. It's not just the time you spend playing the gig. It's like the hours of practice. It's writing the material. It's, breaking down your gear at home, hauling it to the gig, setting it up, and then doing the reverse to get back home after you play. There's all this kind of, I would call it like almost invisible work. It's invisible to everyone else.
Yeah.
Except you as the musician.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that, it's one of the toughest things, particularly now in an environment where you've got CDs. I mean, there are people who can successfully sell their CDs and their vinyl, but it's tough to do. Not everybody's able to do it. And streaming has basically stripped any money out of what would have been, your actual income, because before, people would have been buying your CDs. Oh, now it's on Spotify. I mean, I'm sure you look at your artist statement from Spotify and go, wow, I can't even buy a cup of coffee with that.
Exactly. Yeah. And I've been taking some courses since I knew I was going to release my new CD in how to market yourself in this world. And I've come to the conclusion that fan-based marketing is what is the method to use, which is you get people not just to listen to you on Spotify, which is just a dead end, but you get them to come to your website and you get them to sign up on your mailing list, and then you have a relationship now with your customer, because they are potential customers. But it's when someone actually gives you their personal email that you've made someone that's a potential fan that will buy CDs. They don't even have a CD player anymore. Buy your vinyl if you have it, and then merchandise is really huge. And the person that I've actually gone to school on is actually Gracie Morrison.
Yeah.
She recorded here in the studio when she was 15. So, and that's the last time I saw her. She's 40 years old, right? And so she was played at the Shepherd Center Saturday night. And Cindy is actually, she's in charge of the music committee at Shepherd Center. And so I was there early because they needed some extra hands setting things up. And so I'm there, setting up, and then walks Gracie, sees me, comes over, and gives me a big hug. We haven't seen each other in 25 years.
That's wild.
But I saw on Facebook, she advertises, and she does these ads of the, and you've probably seen this. I'll send you my CD and for free if you just pay for the shipping.
Right.
And it's usually like $12 for the shipping and postage, and which means the media mail for a CD is $4.47. I know because I've been doing it. Then one of those little boxes, call it 50 cents or $1 or something, so $6. Then postage is $4.47. So you got $6 or $7 into it, but you make $5 that you hadn't seen before.
Yeah.
And I totally get it. And so since I went and I bought not only bought her a CD, and then you have to go all through these layers when you buy it from her. And I said, I know how this is working. So I did. I bought 2 CDs from her, and then I think I didn't buy her a cup, but she has
like a coffee cup?
Coffee cups and T-shirts and the whole 9 yards, So, but that's what I think that people that are going to survive it all as a songwriter is what you really need to be. That's what I'm doing. That's where I'm aiming for, is to just well, you saw my website.
Yeah.
So there's merchandise on there.
But you can listen to the new record on there. You can stream it on there.
Absolutely.
Which if Spotify isn't making you money, why not have somebody just stream it from your website? Why even have it on Spotify if it's not? Because it wasn't on Spotify or Apple Music or anything. So it's like, that's the place you're going to go to listen to it. And then you create engagement with people who might follow in and see where you're playing next.
Yeah, some people have been doing that, but the reason I do have Money and Water, the song on Spotify, and that's the only one I put up there so far. And I intend to eventually, over the next year, put them all up there. And the reason is that Spotify is going to introduce me to a bigger audience. But I actually have a method to my madness, and I'm actually learning how to use AI to create videos.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you noticed this or not, but on YouTube I have 5 animations,
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, and I did him back in 2017 with a fellow, the animator was Glenn Alexander from Providence. Lovely guy and great musician and a talented animator. So I've gotten some, not thousands of looks, but it's drawing a little bit of attention here and there. But everything that I've been reading about marketing yourself these days, the latest is you market on TikTok, and have a solid video that goes along with what you put on TikTok. And then that is, if you can get people to look at that, then they'll be drawn to your website. And then through your website, hopefully they're going to join your mailing list. And that's the key, is everything is fan-based. You get them to join your mailing list, then you can have a two-way conversation with them. And that's where I'm going.
And you're doing that at age 74. Now, I've
75.
seen 75. Okay. And I mean, I just saw your home studio. So I mean, it strikes me that you're someone who's like embraced whatever tools are available along the way, because you're talking about, well, back in the day, it was a reel-to-reel, and then it was an ADAT digital tape deck, and then it was, and on and on and on. What's it been like over time, evolving with all these tools, not just the recording tools, but the marketing tools?
I'd say that is the number one thing that I've been terrible at, is marketing, because I'm basically a shy person. And that said, I actually had a job one time for 5 years in sales, but it was like, I mean, I lived in a state of terror for 5 years. I really did. In fact, it's a line in my song History. It says, somehow I made it through college. I took a job in sales. Couldn't, God, let's see. I took a job in sales. Shy guy knocking on the door of trepidation. I only wanted to save the whales. And that totally...
I remember that line too.
Yeah, that's me. That's me. I was a very shy person, and it still am in many ways. And but so marketing myself has been an absolute grind, because it's not my nature. All I really want to do is sit in a closet someplace and write music.
Yep.
And I want to get it out there. And I've done a lot of performing. And I'm fine once I'm on stage. It's funny. I'm better on stage. Being shy on stage is not me. A lot of people think I'm a huge extrovert because of the way I act on stage. But when I walk off a stage, I just really want to go back into my closet and play my guitar and leave me alone.
Isn't it the case a lot of times, though, that who you are on stage is like almost like the flip side of your personal coin?
That's exactly true. Yeah, that's exactly true. Because when I'm on stage, I mean, I've played literally thousands of gigs and all sorts of, audiences. The biggest audience I played with was with the Clancy Brothers. We played out in Milwaukee to an audience of 25,000 people. And that was pretty shocking. But yeah. But
where was that in Milwaukee?
They have right on the river, there's a festival grounds. And in Milwaukee, over the summer, they have festivals every single weekend right through the summer. So that I know they do a German fest. I think they do an Italian fest, and the Irish fest turned into, and it's been out there for, 30 years anyway, turned into the biggest Irish festival in the world. So that's how many tens of thousands of people they get coming through that. It's amazing.
It's like finding out, because I went to college in Savannah, Georgia, that I think at one time Savannah had the second largest St. Patrick's Day parade in the country.
Yeah, I was at the Irish Festival in Savannah. I played at the that pub that's there. That I don't know if it's still there. There's an Irish pub.
Kevin Barry's?
Kevin Barry's. Yeah. I played there with the Shananagans, actually.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Spent many a night in my college days at Kevin Barry's down on the river.
Great spot.
Absolutely.
Yeah. A friend of mine played there for years, Tom O'Carroll. I don't know if you ever saw him play there.
I think I did.
Yeah.
The main guy I saw was Harry O'Donoghue.
Yeah, I don't know him.
Yeah. But I do think I saw Tom play. Mm-hmm. You know, because you know how it is at the pubs, they rotate people in and out.
Yeah, he would play there, I don't know, quite a lot. But
how did you connect with the Clancy Brothers?
Well, it started when I played with the Shananagans. I was with the Shananagans with Tom Kennedy and his brother Dick from 1979 to 1986. And we did pretty well in the Irish music world. But, you know, we never, as Americans, we could only get to a certain level. So, but we were playing like at Tommy Makeham's Irish Pavilion in New York City. We were playing as far west as Buffalo, Maine, all over the place. But we opened up for the Clancy Brothers on several occasions. And I had met Bobby Clancy and actually Tommy Makeham back in the 70s. So, you know, they knew who we were. And so anyway, in the early 90s, Aoife Clancy moved to the area, and she was staying with a friend of mine. And this is like 1991 or 2 or something. And we ended up doing a duo for a couple of years. And then she moved back to Ireland. And then she moved back out here and married an American guy, and so we were doing a duo again. And then she joined a band called Cherish the Ladies, and this now is moving into later in the 90s. And then I got a call from her saying that her father and Uncle Patty were reforming the Clancy Brothers with her brother Finbarr, and they were looking for another person to bolster the band. So I was basically a hired hand, but anyway, they offered me one gig, which happened to be out in New York State, at a huge university out there, Binghamton, NYU Binghamton, amazing stage, and it was we were the main act, opened up by Cherish the Ladies and Solace, which are just two huge bands, and I was like a total train wreck because I'm going, I can't believe that those guys are opening up for us. You know? Yeah. I mean, they're like world-class musicians, and the Clancy Brothers have never been, you know, as Patty Clancy told me, he said, we are a singing group. That's what we do. We sing and interpret song. And that's exactly what they did. And but with Finbarr and I playing behind them, we had actually a pretty dynamic sound. It was really pretty tight. And after the first night, they kept me on, and we worked.
You passed the audition.
Yeah, I passed the audition, yeah. And worked with them for, as the Clancy Brothers for 2 or 3 years, and Patty Clancy got sick and died. And we went on as the Clancys and Eddie Dillon with Finbarr and Bobby and myself, and went on for 3 years, and then Bobby died, and then Finbarr and I tried carrying on the flag, but it was really going nowhere. So he was kind of fed up with trying to make a living, so he moved back to Ireland, and he was not home for like a month when he got a phone call from a producer who produced the Celtic Woman.
Yeah.
And they formed the High Kings. And that's going on, I don't know, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And so that became super successful for him. I mean, they were just in Australia, and they play all over the place. And spectacular band, and dear friends. So I'm a lucky guy.
What influences did you take away from playing with the Clancy Brothers?
Well, the number one thing was stagecraft. And Patty Clancy and Tom Clancy came over to the United States wanting to do theater around New York City. And as a fun thing to do on Saturday nights, they would hang out at the White Horse Tavern and sing Irish songs, which basically morphed into the Clancy Brothers. But they had come here to be in theater. They had studied theater back at home, and in fact, Tom Clancy went out to Hollywood, and he's in a bunch of TV shows. I think he was on Columbo.
Oh, wow.
and I mean, major shows,
Yeah.
but as you know, just like bit parts and stuff. And I forget what films he was in. It was not a whole bunch, but you know, enough that he has, you know, some cred in the movie Hollywood industry. But anyway, my takeaway was because they were just it was all their presence on stage was almost, it wasn't choreographed, but just their attention to the audience and the repertoire, how they would approach the audience, and being, you know, careful of how they interacted with each other. And they would also have all their song introductions down to a T, and it would always sound like they were just making it up, but it's because they were actors. It was really spot on, and so that was you know, one of the things. The other thing that it was just my observation from working with them is the element of fame. And they were, in the 60s, really rather famous in the United States. And they were on the Ed Sullivan Show 4 times, which in the 60s
was a big deal.
Huge deal. And I remember I was like 12 maybe, or 13 when they were on the Ed Sullivan Show for the first time. And I grew up in an Irish-American family. And we weren't the kind of Irish-American family that raised, you know, waved flags or shillelaghs. We were just like the real deal. You know, we're proud to be Irish, but we're not going to put it in your face. You know, my parents, you know, all my grandparents were from Ireland, and they engendered the sense of Irish pride without being someone that has to wear it on their sleeve. And the sense of Irish humor was passed down, so that when I started hanging around with Irish people, it was really seamless, because I had that. I mean, I got their jokes. Lots of times Americans will be hanging around with Irish, and an Irish person will make a joke, and the Americans will just go right over their head. You know, we were talking about, you know, the influence of the Clancys. So I would say that, you know, number one, the stage presence, the professionalism. These guys were in their 70s, waking up, never late for anything, always on time, you know, practiced their parts, had it down, and just true pros. And it was amazing. But I'll tell you, I was talking about fame. That was it. It was interesting for me to see these guys in their 70s and these young babes chasing after them. You know, I mean, it'd be like, holy cow, how do you do that? You just go on Ed Sullivan, you'd be wicked famous. And I mean, here's another part of the connection that the Clancys had on music in general. Back in the early 60s, the Clancys were being represented by the same agent that Bob Dylan had.
Oh, yeah.
I think it was Grossman.
Albert Grossman.
Yeah. Yep. So anyway, he calls Patty Clancy, and this is exactly what Patty told me. He said, Patty, there's a young guy coming from Minnesota tomorrow. coming to the city, and he is going to be something. Mark my words. Will you show him around the village and show him where things are, and and help him out any way you can? And of course, Patty got the message. Next day, he meets Bob Dylan. He walks him through the village. This is the down under. This is blah 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 blah. And Dylan was very appreciative, of course, and Patty Clancy that weekend gets Dylan a gig as a harmonica player at a party.
Oh wow!
Yeah. So then, this gets really better. So Dylan comes out with his first album, and we all know that story. And he wants an apartment in Greenwich Village. So he and Liam Clancy were roommates for like a year or two in Greenwich Village. And as fire ahead, 1993, Dylan's having the 30th anniversary of the release of his first album. And the Clancy Brothers get the invitation. And of course, everybody that's been involved with the Clancy Brothers, Robbie O'Connell, all the Clancy Brothers, get backstage passes. And then Bobby Clancy makes sure that Aoife and I and Aoife's husband and Aoife's sister get backstage passes too. So in 1993, I'm in Madison Square Garden in the backstage and at Bob Dylan's concert, and it was like a moment in musical history. There's like 50 major stars on stage. It was the concert that Sinead O'Connor got booed off the stage. We saw that happen because when she went on stage, we went out into the audience to see her, and watching that happen was one of the most painful things I've ever seen in my life. It was in terms of.
You're just dying for her up there.
Yeah. Oh, it was really horrible.
Because she had just done SNL and ripped up the Pope's picture.
Yeah. It was the week before.
Week before.
Yeah. And it was so sad to see. So this gets better, and I might as well tell you the whole story. So we go back up into the dressing room, and you had to share it with all the other stars, right? And I'm standing there totally starstruck, but I was acting cool because. The one could say that I really didn't belong there, even though they got me my little tag. I still have it someplace, and I'm standing there because across the hall and in the next room is Neil Young sitting in a circle playing guitar, and I am just like pinching myself watching this whole thing, right? And I'm going. Oh, just go in there and say hello. This is what I'm saying to myself. And I happened to be standing beside the beer cooler when two burnout-looking guys come in our door, and they come walking right up to me. And I'd have to say at the time, I used to get a lot of people say, "Hey, you look like Richard Dreyfuss," right? I'm walking down the street, "Hey, Richard Dreyfuss," and so these two guys come walking up to me. I don't know who they are, no idea, and they have British accents. So I'm going, oh God, and I'm trying to act, big, quotes,
capital
act,
neon letters,
act cool. So I'm like, they said, what are you doing here? I said, oh, I'm just hanging out. I said, are you working here? I thought they were British producers. That's what was my little brain was telling me, because I almost said to them, will you move out of the way? I want to see Neil Young, right? So I didn't, thank God. So, and I said, would you like a beer? And they said, no, we're good. We got to move on. Good seeing you. Oh yeah, good seeing you too. And out they went, and Aoife's husband was there. He comes running over to me. He goes, I can't believe you talked to them. Right? And I'm like, who were they? He goes, that was Keith Richards and Ron Woods.
Oh my God.
But seeing them like right in your face, and I would always think they'd be like 10 feet tall or something, and they really weren't all that huge, and kind of burnt out looking. That I should have known.
Yeah.
So the story gets better. That just happened when Bobby Clancy comes running into the dressing room, and he goes, lads, oh, Sinead O'Connor, she just got booed off the stage. Jesus Christ, what's wrong with these people? He goes, we're going to have to go down and give her a big Irish hug. Let's go. So out the door, we follow Bobby, Aoife, her sister Roisin, me, I think Mike was there. And we go down through another layer of security right to the backstage. There's 5 steps that go up to the stage. And we get there, we're just about to go up when there's an entourage coming off the stage and surrounded by security, and they go, major star coming through, everybody please make way. So we, people, all the little minor stars and nobodies like me moved out of the way, and down comes this security entourage, and it was George Harrison. Right, yeah, it gets better. So I'm standing there, and some dude leaning over me trying to tap George Harrison on the shoulder, right? And I'm kind of nudged him, hey, buddy, come on, cut that out. And I wasn't looking at him because I was just, ready to faint with George Harrison walking by me. And Harrison takes another step. The guy leans over, and he almost knocks me over. So I hit him like this, he didn't move, and I really gave him a whack. I gave him a whack to the point where I turned around, I was,
what are you doing, man?
Yeah, I turned around, and it was Donald Trump.
Jeez.
It was Donald Trump, and he gave me the look, just like on Saturday Night Live, with his mouth on a big O, and the 2 hands outstretched. Yeah, Donald Trump, so.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So, anyway.
So you were all that stood between Donald Trump and George Harrison.
I did. Yeah, I was. Yeah. I'm sure Harrison appreciated it.
Yeah. A service to all Beatledom.
Yeah. So, anyway, so, the Clancy Brothers have been a huge influence on me. But as a songwriter, I would, this is something I really appreciate about them. I think one of the things that they liked about me was that I was a songwriter. And a couple of times they had me play my songs on stage. I have this one song, it's kind of a comedy, romantic song, Lamore Avenue. It's on that second CD I gave you. And I did that, and I would always play my Barber's Lament tune every single show. They really liked that, which is a piece that I wrote. And it's on the other CD. It's my instrumental CD, and so that support was really appreciated by me over the years. But meanwhile, I'd come home from touring and stuff, and I was working as a carpenter, or doing whatever it took to pay your bills, because when you're freelancing like that, you make some great money on touring, but then, what do you do then? Because by doing touring, I actually lost some regular gigs that I had in different bars and stuff because I was gone, and so somebody else takes your place, and that's just the way it works. And but it's always, to me, didn't matter what I did. I was in sales for 5 years, like I mentioned that, and I had a cassette tape player, and I'd go from sales call to sales call, and I'd be practicing songs while I'm driving, or working on, going over songs that I've been working on, and taking that time, because it was okay, so I was half-time sales and half-time songwriter. It was crazy, but it's worked out very good because I've ended up, surviving, making a living, paying my bills, and I'm still at it and having a blast.
And still writing new songs.
Absolutely.
So can you tell us about the new album, which I believe came out in May, All for a Song? Where did you start with that record?
Well, it actually started during COVID. I realized that I'd have a lot of free time because, I was working as a contractor and playing, but still, it's exhausting. But all of a sudden COVID opened up the opportunity to really focus on getting a new album out, which was long overdue. So and I dug right into it, and at the same time, I've been using Digital Performer, my software, for years. And Digital Performer started offering a free webinar if you were a user. So that was 2020, and it's still going on for the users. And there's a cadre of about 50 people that participate in that webinar. And it turns out that Digital Performer is one of the go-to softwares that Hollywood composers use, because it has a robust interface that you can put MP4, run the MP4, and seamlessly integrate your music with. And so
if you're scoring something like a scene in a film, you've got the video running. It works seamlessly with whatever you're working on.
It's amazing. It's absolutely amazing. And so people like, the guy that wrote all the music to South Park, the guy that wrote the music for the Matrix, Batman. These are just things I can think of off the head. But those composers, because they use it, and the guy that runs the webinar is based in Hollywood. He would do either Zoom meetings with them or have them come into his studio. And you'd be talking or listening to these guys that are, literally world-class composers. And when they did the Zoom meetings, it would always be in their studios. And these guys have, multi-million-dollar studios. Yeah. It's just...
They've got the huge mixing console, multiple monitors. They've got all the rack gear on top of whatever software they have.
One guy showed us his Apple computer, and I think they call them stacks. They're like these big cylinders, right?
Yep.
All the hard drive, right? And someone said, because we got Q&A with him, and someone asked, he goes, hey, I forget his name, he goes, Jim, how much money in that computer? And he goes, can you tell me if it's like 5 figures? And he goes, thumbs up, right? And it was like $1 million computer, But those guys across the board all use that Vienna ensemble software, which gives you these
the orchestral,
but they have it set up so that all 450 instruments can be accessed immediately. But to do that, you need like something that you
need crazy processing power.
Yeah. It's way beyond anything that we'd ever dream of. But for what I was doing, just singer-songwriter, and but what I did was I forced myself to learn how to do MIDI interface with my thing, because I had just never been able to figure it out, never had the time, and I just grinded my way through it, and finally, with this webinar, it was amazing. And now I actually do MIDI. I don't do a whole lot, and what I generally do is, like for instance on this album, the cello parts I had developed myself so that I would know what it would sound like, and then I hired a real cellist. Actually, one of the parts on there is me playing it on the synthesizer.
The keyboard, on the synth, yeah.
But there was this woman came in, Kathy Clasper Torch, who's an amazing violinist and cellist, and she did some amazing stuff on the CD. And but anyway, I guess my point is the synthesis of the development was really started in COVID, and me wanting to do a new album. And as I morphed into like the songs that I was choosing, I realized what I was doing was I was creating an album of my own stuff that I wanted to hear. And I just got away from trying to like make it into a genre, is it going to be folk? Is it going to be country, Americana, whatever? I said, okay, my rule is this is the song that I want to hear.
Right.
And it may be, totally egocentric, and at this point I didn't care. I just, and I said, well, if other people don't like it, that's fine. That's fine. And if you want to hear country music or a particular genre, don't get this CD, and I've had some great, responses for the people that have heard it. And I hired a guy that does distribution to 150 folk radio stations. So it went out to 150 stations, and about 12 of them have played the CD. So I'm pretty pleased about that.
You've been listening to the Fairhaven Artists Podcast Series on the South Coast Artists Index with your host, Scott Bishop. The Fairhaven Artists Podcast Series and the Fairhaven Performing Artists Podcast Series is sponsored in part with a grant from the Fairhaven Cultural Council, a local agency supported by the Massachusetts Cultural Council, a state agency.